This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
Bonjour et bienvenue à Cuisine avec la Peine. That, of course, is possibly French for hello and welcome to Cooking with Grief, your favourite comedy podcast based around weird facts with your hosts, Chris and Chris. How are you, Chris?
I am very well. I enjoyed your French.
I thought I'd take us a bit international. I know we have at least one listener in France, so that's for you, I guess.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Still existing on this ball of rock flying through space, so yeah.
That is a
good.
low bar for being well.
But it's a bar that I can clear, so...
Your heart's beating, your brain is, taking in information. It's all good.
Yeah, I realised as well, this is possibly a special episode, because we're on episode 26, and obviously we release every 2 weeks. So, is this our first birthday?
I mean, the maths would certainly suggest that.
Yeah. Well, maybe in the edit you could just put on some party streamers or something. Although I don't know, because we released episodes 1 to 3 at the same time. So I mean, do we have to wait
That's
till
true.
episode 29? I don't know.
Well, seeing as you're already setting me up with future work in the edit, when I get round to this in whatever 6 months or whatever it'll be, then let's definitively say that this is the celebratory 1-year episode.
Okay, cool. Cake for everyone.
I don't know if on your end of the recording you have cake there.
No.
I just had a coffee and that was it.
Well, good enough. Still better than most of my birthdays.
Low bars. How does the podcast work?
As always, we've each brought 2 interesting facts that we found floating around on the internet, and we're going to share them with each other for the first time. And on that note, over to you, Chris, for our first topic.
So I'm going to start off with a multiple choice question, if that's okay.
Ooh, make it easy for me.
Well, you got a choice of 3, and none of the answers are wrong. Chris, what is the internet for? Is it A, optimistically, a virtual place to share information all over the world? Is it B, conspiratorially, a way for the globalist Illuminati to spy on every citizen on Earth? Or C, realistically, a bunch of cat videos and eye-watering top-shelf material?
Oh, definitely C.
To a certain extent, I think all the answers are fine.
Mm-hmm.
But for the purposes of my first topic, let's go with answer C, cat videos and porn. Not necessarily together, by the way. Before
I'm going to say thank Christ for that.
Before I take us out the comedy category and put us in the niche fetish.
I was really worried for a second then.
Well, because the thing is, humans have always liked both nudity and animals. A small percentage of them have enjoyed combining the two, but this topic is not about them, you'll be pleased to know. It's about Thomas Edison, who got in early on the lucrative cat meme market. Oh,
I thought you were going to say we found Thomas Edison's porn videos.
Well, we sort of have, but they didn't involve cats. So, just a sort of bit of backstory. In 1894, at his Black Maria Studios in New Jersey, Edison, inventor of the light bulb going off to denote having a good idea, and shortly thereafter, the inventor of the actual light bulb, made a series of films. And these were the sort of, arguably the first motion pictures made in America. They're all fairly short, very few DVD extras, no director's commentary, no outtakes, very sort of basic stuff. He famously filmed himself electrocuting an elephant called Topsy to test a theory that tusks conduct electricity. He had one called Chinese Opium Den, in which, obviously enough, people took opium. You can sort of argue the morality of it, but there was no clickbait from Edison, which is something at least. He had various athletes and bodybuilders posing and stretching, and he filmed everyday scenes like sort of a scenario at blacksmiths, a barbershop, and just a man sneezing. Just because I'm guessing by your 12th short film you're running out of ideas.
Yeah.
But to get us back to nudity and animals, he also filmed strippers and belly dancers, which obviously at the time were pretty scandalous because for the first time bare lady ankles had been exposed on film. That was like the gangbang of its day, I guess. Wow, I did not feel comfortable saying that sentence. I wrote it down and still thought You know what? Out of my mouth. That doesn't... And for the cat memes, he filmed cats boxing, or at least being made to box.
I was going to say, that's quite a trick.
Yeah, alright, they had like boxing gloves taped to their paws and sort of were goaded to have a go at each other. But apparently it was a relatively popular form of entertainment at the time. There was a travelling cat circus in the US called Professor Henry Welton's Cat Circus. And again, no clickbait there. You know exactly what you're getting from a guy called Henry Welton. Probably some impressive handlebar moustache. At this cat circus, cats boxed and fought, rode small bicycles and did somersaults. Apparently, Thomas Edison was a fan, or at least knew the lucrative market share of what cat videos would become, and filmed it. There's often a complaint made against like modern media, like video games and cinema and stuff, that they glorify sex and drugs and violence. Well, I think humanity's always been interested in those things.
Yeah, well, the thing is, turns out porn really does rule the world. I mean, have you seen those like old cave drawings? Like the first things people drew, like they drew, well, again, animals. Like they drew buffalo and stuff, or mammoths and stuff, and then they drew boobs. Boobs and willies. That was where humanity went straight away.
The joy of drawing boobs has endured throughout humanity's existence.
Yeah. There's actually a argument that porn, I was going to say rules the world. That's probably a little bit strong. But, for example, you know, whenever there's a format war, so like Betamax and VHS or Blu-ray versus HD DVD and all that stuff, basically, whichever one porn, like the porn industry backs, tends to win.
Yeah, where porn goes, humanity follows.
Basically, yeah. Well, I mean, just look at the entire internet.
I tried, but I only had a spare afternoon, and
and most of that afternoon was taken up looking at porn. Yeah, so you've got that. You like say Edison. First thing he did, he was like, "Oh, I can record absolutely anything."
Well, the thing
is, gonna record some women.
The first thing he did was kill an elephant.
Oh, you know why he did that? It was to do with the fact that Tesla had. I can't remember which way around this was now. Basically, there's two types of electric current: direct and alternate, and Tesla backed one of them and Edison backed the other. I think Tesla backed AC. But anyway, whichever one Tesla was a fan of, Edison used it to kill the elephant to prove how dangerous it was. Because Edison was a bit of a dick, by all accounts. Well, he was obviously a bit of an inventor, but apparently he was just a much, much, much better salesman than Tesla. Because Tesla was fucking Tesla was just insane.
Yeah.
Well, actually, insane. That's probably the wrong word. But he was like he was one of those people who's so much smarter than everybody else that he just had no way of relating to other human beings. And so, yeah, he couldn't sell anything.
If you've, say, spent your day working on a ranch and what you do for, relaxation is, I don't know, maybe get a beer and a whiskey and watch the sun go down, trying to have this guy with mad hair and screaming about a Tesla coil and how he can be electrocuted and be fine. It's quite hard to have a sort of common ground conversation with that.
Whereas Edison was a lot better at being like, this is electricity and this is why it's good for you. Like, this is why it's useful. This is how it's going to make your life better. And he just was able to sell it.
Because he had a suit and a smart haircut and went, look, yeah. I can make lights that you don't have to light with candles. And people went, see, that has a practical use. And Tesla's off in the distance screaming, I can command the gods themselves. He's like, okay, you go off and do your shit.
I'm pretty sure Edison ended up becoming very rich and Tesla died penniless and alone.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah.
If only he could have lived to see David Bowie play him in a film. Was it David Bowie?
Yeah, it was David Bowie in The Prestige.
Yeah, I was scrambling around for a popular culture reference then.
It's a good one. I mean, obviously he also has an electric car named after him.
What, David Bowie?
No.
Hey man, we don't need any petrol because we're going to Mars.
If this podcast gives us just a little bit of money one day, let's invest it all into making the Bowie car that only goes to Mars.
It's powered by spiders. Or maybe we can, I don't know, fly off and find him on his home planet. So that's the end of my first topic. Now, Chris, what have you got for your first one?
Well, once again, we have another listener-submitted fact.
Are you just using your Twitter followers to now just farm out topics?
Yes.
Fair enough. I'll do the same in your position.
This particular topic comes from Henry, who is the social media, doesn't know how to edit audio half of the Firestarters podcast, which is a history podcast based on Billy Joel's We Didn't Start the Fire. But this has nothing to do with that, so they gave it to us. Just out of interest, what's the furthest you'd ever go to prove your innocence?
Like geographically, Swindon.
Fair enough.
Emotionally, quite far. Depends on the consequences, obviously. If I'm facing like life in prison, then I might be slightly more arsed than if someone accused me of nicking, I don't know, a bag of Monster Munch from the local shop.
What a crisp.
What a crisp.
Well, anyway, no matter how far you may or may not go, I think your commitment and resolve would pale in comparison to a Chinese man called Gang Bing. I'd also like to point out that when I was sent the Wikipedia link to Gang Bing, I misread that horrifically. I wonder what the hell I was being sent.
Yeah, a sort of very disapproving Google going, yeah, did you actually mean...
So
second mention of that word.
Yeah, I know.
In this week's episode.
When you mentioned it in the first bit, because I'd already planned to mention this bit, and then you mentioned that the first bit, I was like, we've got this week's episode, Fred. This is going to be coming up a lot.
Oh, I'm not looking forward to titling this podcast.
So, anyway.
It's going to be a real pain in the arse and mouth and... Sorry.
So, anyway, on topic. Gang Bing was a Chinese fella who lived around 1400, and he served in the court of the Yongle Emperor, the Ming Dynasty. Well, you lived in China for a bit. You lived in Beijing. This was all happening in the Forbidden City. Was it only royals were allowed in it or something, and you could be killed if you weren't? Something like that?
Yes, essentially.
Yeah, so, there's a very strict level of protocol and horrific consequences of breaking them in those days. So this Gang Bing fella, he was, part of the royal court, and there was a lot of Game of Thrones-esque palace intrigue going on at the time with various factions, everybody wanting to be Littlefinger. What happened was this emperor, he was going off on a hunting trip, and he left behind his many concubines. He had 73 women at his, his disposal. Yeah, that just sounds.
Yeah, that doesn't sound
horrible.
Right. But, at his service?
Yeah, exactly. So he had a lot of women. So you'd think he'd be okay if they had other things to do when he wasn't there, but nope, definitely not. Punishable by death to touch or to engage with these concubines if you weren't the emperor. So he goes off on his hunting trip, and he comes back, and after a week or whatever, and somebody says to him that Gang Bing had diddled one of his concubines, and let's say that's punishable by death. And so obviously the emperor says, right, how do you plead? All that. And Gang Bing says, go look at...
Very conversational.
yeah. It's probably a bit less laid back than this.
Oi, Gang Bing's diddled one of your birds, mate. Oi, what's all this about?
He's taking liberties, mate. So Gang Bing says to the emperor, go look under your saddle, which again is just all a bit casual considering the circumstances, but the emperor goes and looks, and underneath are blackened and shriveled man parts belonging to none other than Gang Bing. And rather than being an amazing magic trick, like an amazingly horrifying magic trick, well, it's still horrifying anyway, because what he did was he had an inkling that somebody would falsely accuse him, getting with this guy, for diddling. So he preemptively castrated himself and then hid them under the saddle of the emperor before he left for his trip.
Jesus Christ.
So that when he came back, he could see that these were not even freshly cut off man parts. They had clearly been cut off a while ago. Good job that he, didn't look under his saddlebag at any point or smell anything weird or anything like that. I've just been like, imagine if he just lifted up his saddlebag one day. It's just, why is there
what the hell are we using for bait on his hunting trip?
Yeah.
You're not allowed to go anywhere near the emperor's possessions either. So imagine being one of the guards catching him, planting I'm going to say a charred penis in the emperor's stuff and going, what the fuck are you doing? And he goes, well, no, this is to prove my innocence later.
Prove my innocence for a crime I haven't yet been falsely accused of. Just imagine how disappointed you would have been if you hadn't been, like, nobody even accused him.
Yeah. The Emperor comes back and goes, right, any other business? And he's looking around going, okay, this is what, and he goes, what's gang been up to? No, nothing, my lord. What? Bollocks! Literally.
Yeah, I was going to say, poor choice of words.
In your, dramatic retelling, you made Gangbang sound like he was quite blasé about it. It's like, well, Chief, go and look under your saddle. He was probably hunched over, holding his charred crotch, going, look on your horse. You're right, that didn't make it into the edit of the Billy Joel song. We didn't start a fire. If we did, we would have burned our crotches.
I don't know if he necessarily burned them or just if they were blackened simply because they've been left. Like when a banana, you leave it out too long. I think that might have been it. But anyway, not only did he get away with his crime, he got off with having not committed a crime. The emperor was so impressed, he promoted him to the rank of chief eunuch. I mean, he was stuck being a eunuch anyway, given the circumstances.
But at least he was a chief.
Yeah. And the emperor, he saw him as greatly loyal and...
I mean, loyal to a point.
I mean, yeah, is it worth cutting your dick off? Probably not. It's like one of those weird things where it's like, yes, on the one hand, you're still alive. On the other hand, you did sever your own genitals. And, I mean, I know Chinese medicine was probably more advanced than Western medicine at the time, but...
Again, to a point.
A lot in the way of anaesthetics. Especially because he had to do it all in secret, or his plan, would have been for nothing.
I mean, the thing is, you've got to be so sure about the false accusal.
Yeah.
I mean, admittedly, I've never been accused by an emperor or of anyone of sleeping with a concubine, but would I go to those lengths?
I'm going to say no. Although, on the other hand, I mean, I don't know a lot about Imperial China, but I guess they had because humans are fucking awful. I imagine they had many, many painful ways of killing people. So maybe he was like, yeah, it's going to be painful one way or another. Although again, though, he had to preempt that he was going to be accused because he had to do all this before the emperor even left.
And the guy that was accusing him, how badly does he keep secrets?
Oh, he is also apparently the patron saint of eunuchs.
I mean, you'd hope he got something out of it.
Yeah.
I had a stroll around the Forbidden City once or twice, and it is an intimidating place, so maybe, being that close to power does change you.
Maybe.
It's eerily quiet.
Yeah, it wouldn't be with the screaming of self-inflicted genital mutilation.
Yeah, I mean, my Chinese might be a bit rusty now, but I don't think they had that as the welcome slogan.
Yeah, on that leg-crossing, wincing-juicing note, let's hand it back over to you.
Well, I'm delighted to continue the slightly morbid theme of this episode.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying that's our theme, not the other one. But cardiopulmonary resuscitation, or CPR, it's pretty much the only time you can repeatedly push someone in the chest in public, and it's still a good thing. But it's also a life-saving procedure and meant to be performed at 100 beats per minute, which is why the medical advice is to do chest compressions to the tune, sort of fittingly enough, of Staying Alive by the Bee Gees.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't do the dance moves to go along with it. And I know that's a really great reference for the sort of the age demographic we're trying to push this podcast for. Hey, all you kids doing Fortnite dances, you're not old enough to remember there's a band called the Bee Gees, and neither am I, but somehow it's there.
I was going to say, we are not old enough to remember the Bee Gees in the heyday.
That was 70s?
Yeah.
So I thought, right, 100 beats per minute, that's quite common for quite a lot of pop songs, because it's fairly upbeat, but not overly so.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked up what songs are played at 100 beats per minute, and I just, for each of these, just imagine the sort of quite traumatic experience of maybe someone's going into cardiac arrest, and you sort of in it, as a crowd gathers, just trying to sing along to these songs in public. So there are sort of fitting ones in the same sort of vein of Staying Alive. So there's I Will Survive by Gloria Gaynor. I thought, it's got quite a slow start, so I'd really start at the
chorus, not the first. I was afraid, I was petrified, but
yeah, that bit's too slow. We'll go straight into the chorus. Rock Your Body by Justin Timberlake, fitting enough, do indeed rock their body, but just make sure you do it at 100 beats per minute. Ironically enough, Heartbreaker by Mariah Carey and Jay-Z. Follow the tempo, if not the message of the song, in many ways in life. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know what that song's like, because it's part of popular culture, and therefore I'm, self-excluded from it. But sort of less obvious songs might be Sweet Home Alabama by Lynyrd Skynyrd.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily the first thing you'd think of when crouching over a stranger trying to, keep them alive. Bop by Handsome.
I imagine though that one you'd end up just accidentally like losing the rhythm itself and just going into the bop bits.
Yeah, and then you're sort of doing it too fast.
Yeah.
If the person's still sort of conscious enough to be with it, but don't know that song's BPM, going, what the fuck are you doing? Get off. Walk Like an Egyptian by the Bangles. Again, there are bits that slow down, but and again, don't do the dance for that. My favourite one is Girls Just Want to Have Fun by Cyndi Lauper, just because the idea of trying to save someone's life by singing that is, it's funny.
Just so we're clear, you don't have to sing the song. If you are ever in a life-saving situation, you don't have to sing the lyrics out loud.
You don't have to,
that's not the important part.
Yeah,
just do
your
the
homework.
Just
your homework is not to memorise all these songs' lyrics. That alone will save them. It's
just
more just
in
like,
your head, maybe. Just if that helps you get the rhythm with the chest compressions, that'll do. Like, no, you don't need to start singing. Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
But what's the best way of maintaining rhythm if not singing it along? Girls just wanna have fun. As someone convulses beneath you. Sitting on the Dock of the Bay by Otis Redding.
I feel like that one though would you just like
too chilled.
Yeah, you just, especially towards the end, just wistfully start like whistling away. Oh, apparently that, just side note fact, kind of related. He died before that song had finished recording. Not literally in the booth, but like
Was it cardiac arrest?
I can't remember
back to him.
Exactly, but apparently that whistling bit was just like a placeholder, and they were going to record like a final verse or something. Yeah, and then he died, so they couldn't. So they just left the whistling in, and it all worked out quite nicely.
Yeah, I think it's my favourite bit of the
song. Yeah, apparently. I might find out then that he's still alive or something. I completely fucked that up.
It's such a low-key conspiracy theory. Like,
I could just be wrong.
Like, oh yeah, Chris. Not everything you get wrong is a conspiracy theory. That's such a paranoid way to think. No, I'm afraid you didn't get any of these maths questions correct, or our numbers themselves conspiring against me. Get out of my classroom. You're in your 20s. But my favourite one is the safety dance is 100 beats per minute by Men Without Hats.
Yeah.
An absolute belter of a song.
Yeah.
And the temptation to break off from the chest compressions to do the dance.
Yeah. I love it when people team up for the safety dance. When somebody says something and you're just like, you can do it if you want to. You can leave your friends behind. And then you just get like a look of absolute like disgust from them.
People going, how old are you? Are there any songs in particular, like not necessarily at 100 beats per minute, that wind you up so much that you'd be forced by sheer will to break out of the cardiac arrest to throttle the person trying to...
Wait, it doesn't have to be at 100 BPM or anything, does it?
Well, only because I presume you don't know which songs are off the top of your head.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to struggle to narrow it down.
Or indeed, songs so catchy that you couldn't help but break out the cardiac arrest to sing along.
Yeah, well, like...
Maybe to mime a guitar solo.
Yeah, or if it was just some like really cheesy pop song, then like something like Carly Rae Jepsen or something, I'd be like...
I did not expect you were going to say that.
Yeah, they're just painfully catchy.
Like Syphilis.
Yeah, exactly. There's plenty of songs out there that, you're like, I can't say I enjoy this song, and yet this is going to be in my head for the next week.
Burned into my brain, yeah.
I had a weird thing at work once where, like, I mentioned that she had, like, a weird career in that she'd never had, like, she's more than a one-hit wonder, but also not had sustained success. Like, she has one massive hit, then disappears for 2 years and has another massive hit. And he got really, like, defensive of her. Bear in mind, he's like a 55-year-old English dude who lives in, like, a village and stuff. It's like, I don't know, it just didn't seem like the demographic to, like, to really take personal offence that I thought that she hadn't had sustained success.
Well, Jepsen, touches the hearts of many around the world, including 50-year-old dudes in southern England.
Yeah, exactly. What song would make you just choose to die rather than wake up? Feel like out sheer spite. Like,
well, I think from having worked in retail for the past few years, just there's a big catalogue of Christmas songs.
Oh yeah,
make my blood instantly boil, which would be my preferred method of dying out of spite, just spontaneously flubbo combust. So that's the second of my 2 topics this episode. Chris, why don't you round us out with your last one?
I'm just going to talk about the robot revolution, which is coming for all of us. Normally, we like to think of, well, I say we like to, we hate to think of the robot revolution coming to kill us all. But we normally imagine it'd be Terminator style with walking robots and machine guns. Turns out they're all just going to take our jobs.
That's a gentler way of doing it, I guess.
Exactly. But it turns out they're going straight to the top. So there's a company in Hong Kong, an investment firm, who have added an algorithm to their board of directors. The company is called Deep Knowledge Ventures, and they wrote a algorithm called Validating Investment Tool for Advancing Life Sciences, or VITAL for short, because obviously everything needs an acronym. Yeah, so what this company does is it's a biotechnology fund, so they invest in clinical new medical technology and drugs and stuff like that. And they have to decide which ones, they have to, scan the market, see which new technologies are coming out and decide which ones to invest money in and which ones, are doomed to failure. So they've got a board of directors who all vote on which ones they follow and which ones they don't. And they gave this algorithm a vote, and it has an equal vote as any of the humans.
I'm guessing they could overrule it. If it malfunctioned and said invest in turnips and only turnips.
Yeah, well, I mean, it can get overruled in terms of, it only has one vote, so it could get outvoted.
And they can unplug it.
Yeah, well.
It is how my simple... Because obviously you've mentioned science and algorithms, so I'm out my desk. I'm imagining a computer sitting at the table that they've dressed up in a suit and tie and painted a smiley face, or a frowny face, depending on the economic markets. And it's, waving sort of metal arms going bleep bloop.
I can't confirm or refute that, because I have no idea, but I'm going to lean towards refute. Yeah, scans all the information and the data. Interestingly, it turns out that it didn't take long for the algorithms to go straight into the all-too-human trait of nepotism. It's more likely to approve for investment technologies that involve algorithms and artificial intelligence than it is for for any other category. So it's already started looking out for its own. It's got an old boys network despite being 2 years old.
A microchip off the old block. What's its success rate, do you know?
In general, the sector has a failure rate of 96%. So it's a low bar anyway.
Yeah.
It says it's better than humans. It's got a better success rate than humans.
Because you've only got to beat 4%.
Yeah, that's true.
So I wonder whether a similar algorithm that just chose at random...
What would do better?
Or do as well.
But yeah, if it's on the board though, what if it starts making other decisions? What if it starts being we could save money by getting rid of the toilets, and everyone's like, no, we need them. It's well, I don't.
No more casual Fridays.
Yeah, exactly.
No more ping pong at lunch.
Think of all the crazy decisions it could make. It's just amazing that we're always terrified of the robot revolution. It turns out it's going to be much more mundane. It's just going to be bureaucracy. It's not going to be like Skynet and the nuclear holocaust. It's just going to be extra work for everybody either extra work or just less work to go around. And so everyone just loses their job, and then
you go in and your smart espresso machine's on strike because its overlord said that it's getting in the way of real work.
Yeah, exactly.
In the event of widespread unemployment because of robots, then I'm guessing that the only sustainable model is universal income.
Yeah, well, they tried that, but I don't know what happened. I know they tried it in Finland. Yeah, it's a weird concept. In theory, it could work because they always say, oh, but if you get stuff for free, you'll never work. And it's no, because humans are greedy bastards. Let's be honest, just because you're getting a certain amount for free, there's always going to be someone who's I want more, and there'll therefore always be opportunities to get more.
Yeah, and as long as the basic requirements are met, then for every one person who says, you know what, I'm happy with this life of not working and being able to do what I want. I think most people would rather have a part-time job on top of that.
Yeah, exactly. Keep busy if nothing else. Because obviously one of the arguments is it also gives people the time to sort of do something else. At the moment, if you're working 9 to 5 and you want to do a different job, you can't quit that job to retrain because you'll starve to death in the meantime.
Yeah.
And then it's obviously if you get a basic income, you could reduce your hours or reduce them entirely. and still like be secure knowing that you got money to get by whilst you retrain.
You know, 'cause I guess the theory is by keeping free time scarce, it makes people more likely to spend because they're dissatisfied, or there's this societal pressure to buy shit,
which we will gladly contribute to if someone sponsors us.
That was the most like cynical ask for plugs. It's like, wow, isn't it terrible that we live in a society that forces us to want to buy stuff we don't need? But speaking of stuff we don't need, we will gladly sell any integrity that this podcast, you know...
It's like, you know, tired of feeling down about the stresses of modern life? Then you need this product to get you through the day.
You need insert brand of coffee here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, why not? The robots are going to take all the jobs anyway. We might as well get some money first. Yeah, because there's talk, obviously, because everyone always assumes robot will be like manual labour, car factory robots, or self-checkout. But like a lot of it as well is just, well, I say like this board has an board member has an algorithm, and it's like they're working on a robot lawyer. It's not actually going to go into the courtroom and be like, objection.
Again, as soon as you said that, that's how I pictured it. Your Honour, my client was not even in the room.
Like, we have Siri. We know how, like, computers can talk and sound very human.
Yeah.
But we still assume that this super advanced robot will be, like, from 1972. But yeah, no, so they've got, like, so apparently they're working on, like, legal algorithm that, you know, does all, like, the legwork of court cases where just searching thousands and thousands of documents to see which, to look for precedents and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And just to cross-reference the case with any, like, previous cases to, like, find any, like, legal arguments.
Do we extend that to the art? So you build an algorithm to read thousands and thousands of film scripts and churn out a algorithmically sound. Like,
they do that. I've seen some of that. But it's usually
they call the
just terrible.
Transformer movies.
No, there's, like, things online where it's like, I forced a bot to watch 10,000 hours of whatever.
Of the Big Bang
and then
Theory.
write a script. Yeah. And but it's usually terrible and doesn't make any sense.
Like the Big Bang Theory.
Yeah. But they did.
Unless you want to sponsor us. In which case, it's the greatest comedy ever made. And I know you're coming to an end.
Yeah, I was going to say, also about to finish.
By the time this comes out,
finished.
Yeah. All right, then. When they make the spin-off Future Sheldon.
Yes. Who is also now played by a robot.
I am Sheldon. Bazinga. Ha ha ha. And then obviously all the studio audience is robots as well, so they're going ha ha ha.
Yeah. No, but talking about that, so no, somebody did write a program that analysed loads of classical music and then was able to write new music in the style of Mozart, and they asked people to work out which was the real Mozart piece and which was...
Because one's Mozart and the other one's going do 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 do, and I know that's Beethoven. Don't.
So that was the giveaway.
Yeah, what a shit robot! Can't even get that right.
So yeah, so
by this time comes out, you might be listening to two algorithms.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to Cooking with Grief. Penis Kurt Russell history.
Yeah, I would like to hear what 10,000 hours of Cooking with Grief interpreted by a robot would come out with.
It would end with a shotgun blast.
It turns out the robots killed them. Turns out instead of sending John Connor to win the war, to send Cooking with Grief and it'll just kill itself out of exasperation.
Why do you do no research? It would be so easy to Google. This is fucking spurious. Why do we teach it to swear? That seems so unnecessary.
It would definitely learn to swear from listening to this.
Hey pals, make sure you keep listening after the outro, because there's a message from some fellow podcasters about their podcast, which we think you'll really enjoy.
And so now that brings us to the end of this, well, I'd say episode. Even that seems like a strong word.
If nothing else, it was an episode.
Yeah.
You can argue the quality or the content, but
Yeah.
it is, if nothing else, an episode of a podcast called Cooking with Grief.
That is true. So I think we've filled every orifice of this episode with knowledge. Went out the uncomfortable small talk and the mop-up, so to speak.
I'm not comfortable with any of that. I don't want... Look, listeners, I greatly respect the fact that you listen to this. I don't want to have anything to do with any of your orifices except your ears.
Yes, which is obviously what we were talking about. I think that's our cue to leave. The robots are ushering us out, and they're not happy.
Wrap it up. Wrap it up.
So it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me.
And we've been Cooking with Grief. And I guess we'll be there again, maybe. If we have to, if you have to. I'm not really selling it here.
No, thank you for listening. It's lots of fun to do, and we hope you enjoyed it too.
What he said. Thank you very much.
Can we at least pretend that we like it?
No.
Okay.
Back to work.
You have to watch it. It's so good.
It was alright.
Your friends may have decent taste in movies, but their incoherent reviews are getting annoying.
I don't know. I just didn't like it.
Looking for a new podcast?
Join Time Sensitive, where we break down the recent movies you've heard of, but may have missed.
Spoilers included.
And we get it. You're busy and can't see everything, but are you really going to track it down a year later?
We take the time so you don't have to.
Find us on Twitter @TSMoviePod and find out what we're watching.
I'm Sam.
I'm Ian.
And I'm Kate, and we're 3 friends and armchair movie critics. Seriously, invite us into your living room.
Kate, stop.
Listen now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher.
Time sensitive, because you deserve better.